Let me talk to you about company cars. Now, company cars are normally about as thrilling as taking a nap is thrilling, but don't fall asleep on me just yet, because this is a new Peugeot 508 hybrid, and it might be the car that changes all of that.
But first of all, it's going to need to take care of the serious stuff, so let's get that out of the way. 2020 is going to see some big changes for car manufacturers. Strict emissions targets are coming into force, and any brand that fails to slash its fleet average CO2 emissions will end up paying huge fines. But thanks to cars like the 508 hybrid, plus the fully electric E208 and E2008, Peugeot says it's going to be just fine. Officially, the 508 SW emits just 30 grams of CO2 per kilometre, and the fastback emits 1 gram less. That makes the pair comfortably the lowest emission models in the 508 range. Not that you can tell from the outside.
Now, in terms of design, there's not very much to set the 508 hybrid apart from the petrol and the diesel versions in the range. There's a subtle badge on the front wing here, there's an extra flap here which is for the charging port, but other than that, it looks pretty much the same. But that's no bad thing, because I mean, look at it, the 508 just looks absolutely brilliant.
Everywhere you look, the 508 is covered in neat design details. Things like the fang-shaped LED running lights at the front and claw-like LED slashes in the rear light bar look more concept car than production repmobile. Its best angle is at the back, where the SW's sweeping roof makes it look even more dramatic than the fastback. At a time when bloated SUVs litter the roads, the 508 really stands out from the crowd. It's just a shame that passers-by don't get to gawp at the cabin too.
I mean, it's just great in here. After you sit in a 508, you'll wonder why every car doesn't have really cool piano key switches instead of boring buttons, or Alcantara trim on the seats, or copper-coloured stitching all over the place. It just looks absolutely great. And it's really well built too. It's not perfect though. I mean, take this gear shifter here. It's shift by wire, so Peugeot could have chosen any shape that it wanted, but for some reason it's gone for this weird kind of knackered handbrake look. I mean, why?
But it's still not as annoying as the infotainment system. Yes, it looks pretty, but being forced to change things like the cabin temperature and fan speed through a touchscreen are such a pain. Even though the on-screen buttons are fairly big, it's still not as easy as turning a simple physical dial. The 508 hybrid gets a couple of extra menus displayed on that touchscreen compared to petrol and diesel versions. These help you keep track of the various hybrid functions. One screen shows you how the energy usage has been split between petrol and electric in real time, while another lets you pre-select a level of charge to be held in the battery for a later time, like when entering specific low emission zones.
Now, there's good news and bad news in the back of the 508. The good news is that all of the hybrid tech in this car doesn't compromise interior space at all compared to the regular models. The bad news is that that still means that it's far less roomy than in a VW Passat or a Skoda Superb, especially when it comes to rear headroom.
The same goes for the boot. 530 litres will be plenty for most folk, but the Skoda offers as much as 660 litres. The 11.8 kilowatt battery cozies up beside the fuel tank and underneath the rear seats. It's enough to let the 508 SW hybrid cover 32 miles on a single charge, so if you have easy access to charging at home, work or both, you could easily cover most of the average commute without using any petrol at all. Topping up the battery is fairly straightforward too. It'll recharge in 5 hours with a regular 3-pin plug, or if you have a 7 kilowatt wall box or public charger, it takes less than 2 hours. But what's it like to drive?
Because of all of that electric tech on board, the 508 hybrid does weigh more than the petrol and diesel equivalents, but unless you're throwing it along a twisty road, you're really not going to notice. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same as the standard cars, and that is that it rides really nicely, handles really nicely, and just generally it's a really pleasant car to drive. The steering's light and precise too, and it's really comfortable on a long journey. Now, under the bonnet, the 508 hybrid uses a 1.6 litre turbocharged petrol engine with 176 brake horsepower and an electric motor with 108 brake horsepower. Now, because both those two don't make their maximum power at the same time, the total output is 222 brake horsepower. And that's enough for a 0-60 time of 8.3 seconds. And it feels it. It's not crazily rapid, but it's more than quick enough.
The integration of the hybrid system isn't quite as slick as in some rivals, with the petrol engine engaging more abruptly than it does in, say, a Passat GTE. But left in fully electric mode, the 508 is silky smooth and eerily quiet. There's a few driving modes to flick through too. The car starts in full electric mode, while hybrid lets you choose the best balance between electric and petrol power. Sport keeps the petrol engine engaged all the time so you can make the most of the performance.
But how do you know if a plug-in hybrid is right for you? Well, let's talk some numbers.
There's one thing going against the 508 SW hybrid for private buyers, and that's price. Depending on the trim level you choose, it costs between £34,875 and £40,630. You can get a BMW 330e for that. However, if you're a company car user in the UK, this will turn out to be a bit of a bargain. Changes to the rules in 2020 mean that fully electric and plug-in hybrid models stand to become extremely cheap to tax. Let's compare the 508 hybrid to the 508 diesel with 128 brake horsepower. If you're in the 40% earnings bracket, that car in Allure trim falls into the 21% band, so you'll be paying £2,415 a year to tax it. In contrast, this hybrid will cost just £1,395 per year. In other words, you can get a faster, smoother, quieter hybrid, which if you keep it topped up might barely ever need any petrol, for over £1,000 per year less than the basic diesel model. So while it's certainly too pricey to recommend for private buyers, this is a car which deserves to become a popular choice in the office car park. If you like this video, please remember to subscribe to the Auto Express channel, click on the bell icon to receive notifications, and leave your comments in the box below.